to this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Rich LaMonica. He is a motivational speaker, US Army veteran, award-winning author, and a podcast host of the Misfit Nation. Welcome to the show, Rich.
Thanks, AJ. It's an honor to be here on KAJ Masterclass and to be able to share my thoughts and journey with the audience.
Absolutely, absolutely. Welcome to the show once again. It's a pleasure to have you on the show. You know, it's always a pleasure to have, especially anyone who has been in the army anywhere in the world, either it's the US or anywhere, because they have a lot of things to discuss. They have a lot of stories to tell. They tell us also about life. Like in your case, we'll understand from you. You say, after coming to the civilian life, you were looking for a position for yourself, and through an entire year of self reflection, and then you transition towards, and there were a lot of, it taught you valuable lessons about transition. In
Yeah.
terms of, I'll come to this question, is that in army you continue to learn each and every day, and you fight difficult situations, you do everything, but you never get trained about transition of this sort. I want to understand, it's almost like starting the new life. It is almost like, living and seeing the life in it. I want to understand your lessons about about your transition, those 365 days, so that a lot of people understand what it takes to make that transition from the army life to civilian life. How did you do it so that others can also follow that path?
Awesome. It's a great question, and it's a part of my life that I didn't think I'd have to deal with. I thought since I did so well moving up in the Army, I'd fall out like all my friends did and come out the Army one day, the next day working a job, just like most of them did. The problem was most of them were still alive, or most of them still were working in those jobs, so there wasn't jobs available. And I was applying for jobs. It wasn't like my year of self-reflection wasn't just meant, it wasn't planned. It was meant for me to have a job and have to get out of the house and my wife be happy that I wasn't in the house just hanging out with the dogs. So I'd apply for jobs and I'd just get kicked back, kicked back, kicked back. Then when I finally would get a bite, it would say, "Oh, you want too much money." But they wouldn't ask me how much money I wanted. They would say I wanted too much money, making that an automatic indication I wanted more money because I served so long or because the rank I held in the military. I just wanted a purpose. I wanted a job to get out to and be able to continue to serve either my community or with that organization. It took 365 days, as you know, for me to go from serving in the military to landing my first job. And that was due to my friend George Herrera. He gave me a chance with the Mission Continues and hired me as a fellowship mentor. And I was able to help other veterans as they went through their transition. My lessons learned were, don't put all your eggs in that one basket. Don't say that you're going to work for X or Y or Z. Have a broad scope of what you want to do when you get out and have passion for it and start talking to people early. If you know you're getting out in, it's 2023 right now. If you're getting out in 2024, 25, start talking to people in the industry right now. Get that network built. Get on LinkedIn, because if you're not linked in, you're linked out. You're not with everybody at that point. You need to understand who's the best person to speak to, who are the motivated people in those industries that can help you become a better version of you and market you better for the next phase of your life.
Right, Rich. Let's look at a army man's position. You have been, 22-year veteran of the United States Army, deployed in multiple locations in support on the global war on terrorism. Now, an army man's mindset is a bit different than a normal person doing a job. It is about doing a job, and when you are doing it, you are on duty. You simply are not in that position or frame of mind to understand. If you get into a frame of a civilian mindset, you won't be able to focus on what you are doing. This is what I understand. You can do it, but it is like dividing your attention at that point in time. How does one do that? How do you advise at a time, suppose if you are deployed in a foreign location, can you, and you have got few years to go, can you just think about, about transitioning to the civilian life and still be able to do that job? How does that work? When should an army person start planning for it? Should he start planning for day one, from day one, or should he start planning from, last 1 year or last day? Because once you are out, again it takes 365 days of lessons like you did.
Yes, sir, AJ. That's a great question, and things I've learned since I've become employed and have started this more successful transition part of my life is once you raise your hand to join the military, no matter what military you join in the world, even if you're uh, like many countries, you have to serve. Once you do those 2 years, you know you're only serving those 2 years. So the first day you sign up, you know there's an end date. You know there's an end date. If you already have a passion for what you want to do when you get out, if you want to be in business, if you want to, excuse me, start your own business, become an entrepreneur. If you want to make a make widgets or whatever you want to do, start planning that from day one. Start doing little plans along the way. And if you stay in the military for like I did 22 years, where some people do 4, 2, 4, 6, 8, how many ever years you do, always have that plan to move forward because you know there is an end date. And sometimes you don't control that end date. You could get hurt and have to get put out of the military because you're no longer able to serve. So you have to have a plan in place. So if you are deployed, like you asked in the question, it is very hard to split your mind and say, hey, right now I'm going to be going out on patrol and I have to take care of the person to my right and my left, make sure that they go home. And I'm also thinking about what's going to happen in, say, 3 months when I get out of here and go home and start my transition out. You can't be in both places at the same time. Someone will get hurt. Most likely it's going to be you or someone that you really care about that's to your right and left.
Right, right. That is the point I was wanting to understand, from that point of view. So here it comes, about you talk about mindset, resilience, and grit. So how do you, both from an army man's perspective, is that how do you plan your care? Because it's a fact of life. It is a fact of life that you will have to come to a civilian life either by choice or either by whatever situation it is. It is a fact. How do you plan for it? How do you prepare a mindset? And because the more you get into see things happening nowadays, it is not earlier days when an army person is away from all the things that is happening in civilian life or in political life or anywhere else. Earlier you were deployed, so you were away, but nowadays you have got mobile phones, all means of communication, you are aware. How do you prepare your mindset, positive mindset, for the future mindset, and also be away from all the political happenings that are happening? For example, what is happening there in the US at the moment, uh, that people might get affected by that. And army is one thing that needs to be, whatever, however as isolated you may be, it is difficult to be away because your family is still into the civilian life. How do you prepare yourself in terms of mindset, in terms of, resilience again, in terms of there are so many problems in your day-to-day life? Your wife needs your attention, your children need your attention, and here you are holding a gun and trying to fight for something which you again see that the politicians are fighting amongst themselves. I know it is a part of your training, but at the end of the day it is also very important to know that you are also human, and that human has to come back into society, and he wants that society to be good enough so that he can work for what he has been fighting for, and what he can work for so that his children are part of a better future of that very society. I want to understand how does he make his mindset so brittle, so flexible, and so civilian, say ready, that he achieves success and does not have to compromise with his dignity when he's coming down to the civilian life, and at least not have to waste time in transition.
That's a great question right there. And mindset really helps you. If you have a positive mindset, you don't believe anything will go wrong, or you don't believe that if something does go wrong, it's going to stay wrong forever. And if you keep that mindset and growth mindset to keep moving forward, that helps you. But like you said, you're away from your family, you're fighting in the war, your family's back at home. dealing with a lot of stuff that's going on in their world at that point. It's also your world, but you're not there. You kind of compartmentalize everything, and even though you're far away with, like you also said, the mobile phones or the interconnectivity of the world's a lot smaller now thanks to the internet. And my first couple deployments, we didn't have all this interconnectivity. You just went and you wrote letters on paper to your family, and they got it probably a week or so later, and then you get one another a couple weeks later. So you didn't really get that catch up as quick as you do now. Now it's in their face all the time because there's ways to see on computers when they get back from mission. They can go write an email or whatever and say, hey, how are you? Or text message or chat on Facebook or something like that. You get everything right in your face. So you see it. You see everything that's happening back home. You see everything that's happening all around the world. And your mind starts to play tricks on you at that point. And that's where resilience comes in, and having that a positive mindset will allow you to focus on what needs to be focused on right now. Get that 50-meter target and go after that. And then know that when you get home, you'll be able to take care of that 100-meter or 200-meter target and make sure that your family's okay. You can also call others to help your family if they're in need, and make sure those connections are made before you leave. That way, you're not really having to do it or worry about it when you're gone. You know you have a support system that can take care of them.
Right, Rich. Right. Let's talk about resilience. In the army, you know how to fight. You know how to, even if you have fallen, you know how to get up. Every time, each time you fall, you know how to get up, and you know how to not only fight for others, but also fight for yourself. And that's the way it is. How does it work when you are out of the army? You do not have that you can say headroom or the backup of the full force, that big force that was there. How do you continue to, because once you are there, you have got several other issues to deal with. The mindset of from army to a civilian life, looking at the civilian life where there is not the same sort of discipline that you saw there. Sometimes you can be angry about it because you think you are fighting for the same thing, and now you have to compete among the people whom you were once depending with your life. And then the strength that you had in your army, about all that, in civilian life you have to be also become much more worldly wise. You may not be always all the time you just think in a straight line, and many a times there are other mental issues if you have been in the thick of action a lot of time that are there. How do when you face tough moments, when you are out of the army, how do you keep that resilience? You may fall once, you may fail twice, thrice, five, as you take 100 times, and how to get up. I want to understand through this question for others also. Life is not fair at any place. How do you continue to, because nobody is going to come. Nobody is going to come. Maybe some help will come, but at the end of the day, you will have to get up yourself and fix things for yourself and your family and for the near and dear ones. How do you make yourself that strong? How do you become so resilient that you pick up yourself every time, even after 100 times of failure?
I think first part of that question is, how do I keep that resilience? I learned my resilience through my parents growing up. They worked multiple jobs growing up to try to make sure we had a better life than they did, and they showed us how having that mindset to make us to be strong for us helped us, and their resilience when our house got robbed, or when we had no car, when we were barely making it by with four children in the house, and mom and dad working all those hours. They never stopped helping us, never stopped making that sure everything was all right. So as I flash forward to when I went in the military, I had that mindset that I had to keep working hard to do. Getting out of the military, you alluded to this earlier, how in the military you do things discipline and work, and when you get out, you notice that there's a different mindset amongst the civilian world. If in the military you're handed a task, a soldier, sailor, marine, anyone around the world, they're given a task, they're gonna do it right there. They're gonna make sure, oh, I have to do X, Y, and Z to get this done. I'm gonna do it. In the civilian world, I have X, Y, and Z. I have 8 hours to do this, 8 hours to do this, 8 hours to do this. I'm not gonna rush through this. I might do some of this today, some tomorrow, and get this done. And that really ripsets a lot of military people's minds because they don't understand why people don't want to get things done. It
Right.
takes a little while to understand that and get that through to them. So many veterans don't stay in their first job past 1 year. And that's a statistic that's been out for probably the last 10 years. Most don't stay in that first job because of that very reason. They're because they don't feel like they're part of that team. They got to find a place where they are part of a team. Like for me, I worked for 2 years at a veteran service organization, and I only stayed 2 years really because I didn't want to be that statistic. I wanted to keep working and not be a statistic and see if I can make it through it. I made it to 2 years, and then I found this new job I have now, and my new job, I'm surrounded by people with the like mindset that want to get jobs done. You can handle the mission, you do the mission, and then you support the client. Support the client 100%. And keeping that mindset that you want to support the person that you're working for will help you when you transition into the civilian world. You just got to understand that it's two different worlds completely, and they don't have that same, I guess, discipline or mindset to get things done now. They know that there's a clock that they have and how many hours they can do to get the job done.
Absolutely, absolutely, and especially that's why when you are, if you are an entrepreneur and you need to hire those people, and they won't do the job that you want to be done the way you want to be done, and many a times you may fire them or they may fire you, and sometimes that is where a lot of resilience is required, grit and determination is required. That the failure of one business does not mean your failure. You need to start again and again. There is much to learn from you, Rich, and I guess this is not. Yeah, you're saying something, Rich.
I'm not,
Okay, so there is much to learn, and this one episode is not enough. But there is a book you have got, 13-Step Guide to Success. Help us understand about that. And then you have also got the podcast, The Misfit Nation. I like this name. Help us understand its meaning. Whether it is political or is it about fitness, that also please help us know.
yes, sir. So here's our book, 13 Step Guide to Success. It came out during the pandemic. The first year of the pandemic, I would every month the end of the month on Facebook, I would write, "You made it to the end of this phase of Jumanji, this level of Jumanji, and we faced these demons, and now we got to face these next month." And I did that, and my daughter at the end of it said, "You need to put that into a book, Dad." So I wrote the book and I handed it to her, let her edit it, and then next December, so December 21, that came out. It's on Amazon. You can get it there. Just search 13 Step Guide to Success, or my name, Rich LaMonica, is an author, and you'll find it on there. Our second book, Out of the Darkness, should be coming out by December this year. It's a fiction novel based on soldiers coming back from war and the demons that they deal with in war, PTSD, TBI, losing friends and such like that, and their journey afterwards. The Misfit Nation show also came out about the same time the book was published. I had this crazy idea. I had about 8 hours left of my week I had nothing to do with. I just finished my master's degree, was about to start my PhD. I said, you know what? I need something else to do. So I said, let me start a podcast. I reached out to some of my former soldiers. I said, would it be all right if I used our old platoon name, the Misfits, and called it the Misfit Nation? So the name, the Misfit Nation, comes from our platoon that we had in Kandahar, Afghanistan, 2010 and 11. Many of those members we're all still connected. We all still talk to each other. And a lot of my first guests were them. The aim of the show was to have veterans come on, tell their story, get that pressure off their chest. So maybe they'd stay around a little longer because, as you know, we lose about 22 to 44 a day due to suicide or accidental deaths due to adrenaline rushes and such like that. And they then in turn asked me to bring experts in like yourself or others that can teach them about business, that can teach them how to be better in life. So now next Tuesday, we will drop our 300th episode, and it's a large feat to do that. As you know, working a show, it's a large feat to keep going that far. And I didn't realize how much fun I would have doing it and meeting so many amazing people. So if you go to themisfitnation.com, you'll see where we are. We're on every podcast app, even on podcast apps around the world that are just located in different countries. And we're on YouTube, of course, every Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday at 7 p.m. Central Time.
Wonderful, wonderful. You are when I'm talking to you and knowing more about you, I see how important you have made learning in your life. You did all that learning in the army. You did that learning during the transition. You wrote the book. You are doing the PhD from Liberty University in Homeland Security. You are advising clients. For that you need to learn about the clients, and so many things you are talking about. Learning about podcast hosting is a different ball game altogether. You have learned even that, and 300 episodes is not a small thing. It is nice to see someone putting emphasis on learning so much. Otherwise you could have just sat back and be happy about it and doing your, and relaxing the life that you want, that a lot of people would want to.
Exactly. A lot of people would just sit back on their laurels and say, "This is great. I don't have to do anything else." But I believe as long as we're learning, the better we'll be as we move forward, and the better we show the next generation.
Right, right. And so a lot of people who would want to learn more about you, how can they do that? People who want to, connect with you, what's the best way to do that, Rich?
They can go to our website, themisfitnation.com. There's a contact me a tab on there, or you can write me at richlamonica101@gmail.com. And I respond pretty quickly as long as it comes to my right email address, right in mailbox. I mean, I usually can connect, like with our first show. I didn't see the email until way late. It was in my spam for some reason. So I had to mark it and make sure it came right. Today I was looking early in the morning to make sure it was there. But as long as you email me or contact me through the website, I will get back to you, or someone on my team will get back to you.
Wonderful, wonderful. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
I appreciate you, AJ, for having me on, and much luck to you. Much prosper and respect for you to have it on here. And this show is awesome.
Thank you.